The A Song of Ice and Fire fan community has effectively been locked in a hot car for the last 14 years, and as I can attest from childhood, such situations often lead to creative thinking or bouts thereof. There are some truly excellent fan ideas out there, theories so based in the text itself and clearly established in the themes of the story as it currently exists that I basically take them as canon. The Night Lamp, for example, which is this excellent theory about how Stannis Baratheon is going to smash the Freys and the Manderleys and the Boltons in this battle at the very beginning of the Winds of Winter. Yet, for every Night Lamp, you probably have 10 theories that are about 50 times worse, not being based in any textual analysis, mostly being based on vibes or contrarianism or just whatever someone who hasn't read the books is thinking on a given day. Today, I wanted to run down my 10 least favorite A Song of Ice and Fire theories, as, I don't know, sometimes you just kind of have to be negative to vent. Before getting into more in depth discussion, I want to establish some ground rules. First and foremost, I only want to discuss theories that people seem to genuinely believe. Shit posts are really fun, and there's a lot of stuff that's really out there, obviously, but I really just want to talk about things that people are pitching as actual angles for the future of the series and that are taken at least a little bit seriously. Going along with that, while I will be ranking this from 10 to 1, this isn't as strict of a ranking as certain things might be. My opinion on these theories change from day to day, as I'm sure yours do as well. So, what is number 7 today might be number 4 tomorrow. It truly shuffles up, and it depends on what comments I get on a given day. Which, speaking of, let me know your least favorite Ice and Fire theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear yours, and maybe I'll do a video on yours someday. That'd be fun. But without further ado, let's discuss mine. First and foremost, I want to talk about Ashara Dane. A lot of people think that she's still alive. I've talked about this a little bit in the past. I did a video on her, and I don't think she is alive in any capacity. She's one of these characters who very much haunts the narrative, and I think people tend to mistake that for like signaling importance that, oh, she's going to return to life someday. The only source of any information on Ashara Dane potentially being anything but mega dead 20 years ago is George R.R. Martin once at a signing before I was born mentioning that Ashara Dane's body was never found. That is not a solid basis for any sort of theory, and going further than that, I don't see any benefit to Ashara currently being alive in the story as it stands. I know people sometimes think that she is the wife of Howland Reed. I've not really talked about Howland Reed much, but I don't think that super fits in with what his story is going to be and the elements of the world he's going to engage with. And I don't think it would really be worth undermining this character who, as a ghost, is very much kind of leaving things be. Speaking of Ashara Dane, in the number 9 slot, I have any Jon Snow parentage theory that isn't R plus L equals J. While this isn't confirmed by the show, as certain other plot points are, it is basically confirmed by the show. Not only do they do this reveal like 3 different times, we know for a fact that the main question that David and Dan were asked at the end of their interview with George R. R. Martin to see if they were worthy to adapt his magnum opus was, who is Jon Snow's mother? Their answer, based on the show, very clearly seems to be Lyanna Stark, and I would say that makes it flat out correct. In addition to that, there's a lot of evidence to the fact that Jon is the child of Lyanna and Rhaegar. Specifically, all of these kind of memories from Ned, this bed of blood, promise me Ned, in addition to Daenerys' vision of a blue rose and a wall of ice, that being obviously Jon. Lyanna's kind of signature flower, if you will, was the blue rose, as was that her kind of crown for the Queen of Love and Beauty given to her by Rhaegar. And I think that there's really no one else at the wall who could be that association, unless you think that Benjen has just been hiding at the wall this entire time and isn't actually missing. Overall, I've always thought that the people who tend to say that Jon is not the child of Rhaegar and Lyanna are just kind of being contrarian, or maybe have thought about it too much and circled around to a possibility that really seems pretty distant. Speaking of things confirmed by the show, I am killing it with these transitions. Number 8, Stannis won't burn Shireen. This is something that was straight up confirmed by George R. R. Martin. He has said Stannis will burn his daughter, and a lot of people are kind of coping about that. I get that Stannis is such a different character between the two adaptations, and I do think there's going to be a ton of differences in how this event comes to pass. And I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, Stannis burned his daughter, like essentially at this point where Dance with Dragons ends in the show. So he's going to just do it right at the beginning of the Winds of Winter. That is not going to be the case at all. Stannis and Shireen are effectively the entire North apart right now, and it's going to take a while for them to reunite. And because of that, I think there's a lot of narrative road left to travel for both of those characters before the pieces fall into place for this truly desperate thing to happen. I truly want the best for Stannis, but I do think that all of his story is pointing towards his relationship with R'hllor, homing in on sacrifice and king's blood and what he is willing to do for what he perceives to be the right thing. I had a two-way tie for this slot between very different theories. The first comes from Fire and Blood, that being that Alicent is a secret Targaryen because there's certain indication in the text that the Hightowers have semi-Valyrian features, and Jaehaerys mistakes her for his daughter Sarah on his deathbed. Well, I think that really doesn't make sense at all. I don't see why that would be the case. I think the reason we have Jaehaerys mistaking her for Sarah is because Jaehaerys very clearly regrets elements of his relationship with Sarah and the way he treated her and wishes they could have reconciled in his life, and that is his last regret on his deathbed. We don't need this twist to further complicate things. I think it does sort of kind of erase the narrative significance of those final words and confusions on the part of the old king. Additionally, very disconnected and very different, I really don't like the idea that most people who died in Robert's Rebellion are alive and secretly someone else. Mance is Rhaegar, or Arthur Dane, or something. All of those theories to me just have basically no establishment in any facts of the series. And even worse than that, I don't see what they would do for the series. I don't see how those things will enhance the text and increase any themes or significance of elements that are existing there beyond just kind of complicating things for the sake of, oh, what a twist. A pair of Tyrion theories for you here, also tied for a slot just so I can rant more and fit more into this video. The first is that Penny is Tyrion's daughter. Penny is this girl who he meets on his travels in Essos in A Dance with Dragons, and it's genuinely impossible that she would be his daughter. They share the same stature, and people think that could be some indication, but oh my god, not really. And also, Tyrion would have been 10 when Penny was born, and I do not think there's any indication from being in his head for 4 books that he fathered a child at age 10. There could be something from Tysha's relationship, but that's another can of worms entirely. And speaking of, the theory that Tysha is the sailor's wife, also, I don't like whatsoever. I think if the sailor's wife was married to any Lannister, it was pretty clearly Tyrion's uncle Garyon who sailed east to find the old Valyrian steel sword in the ruins of Valyria, that being Bright Roar, this sword of House Lannister that they had purchased long, long ago and was lost to time. This fits in a lot better with the timeline, and I do think that Tywin saying that Tysha is wherever whores go doesn't literally mean that Tysha is a prostitute somewhere, as many people are seeming to interpret it as. I think the main point of that passage is that Tywin is just being fully dismissing and not even engaging with the question. He's not, like, trying to lay out clues for Tyrion. You know it. You love it. Clegane Bowl. Oh my god. I do not like Clegane Bowl at all. I have an entire video on why I don't like Clegane Bowl. But in short, Robert Strong is not Gregor Clegane. Yes, it's the same body. But the point of this undead person is that Gregor Clegane, the monster that he was, his suffering is ringing eternal in this unlife that he has been forced into after being slowly poisoned. And Sandor, who is alive, his arc doesn't really have anything to do with violence going forward in my mind. I think he is a peaceful figure. He was on the Quiet Isle the last we saw him, and I think his role in the story, if any, going forward, will be to aid in convincing Arya to stay away from the path of vengeance, and taking vengeance against his brother really has nothing to do with that. Number 4, you might be able to predict if you've seen some of my stuff on Twitter a few months ago. I really do not care about anything that has to do with the great empire of the Dawn, or really writ large. I think the World Book, The World of Ice and Fire, is not a great place to base theories on, given the fact that it is so tangentially related to the main series. Not only is it only partially written by Martin himself, all of these grand ideas of these ancient civilizations and these peoples far, far away from Westeros or even Essos having anything to do with the main story, even in just mirroring it somehow, it's just kind of preposterous to me. It does not make sense. And I think that, sure, maybe certain elements of it were designed to mirror the main series, but I think that's it, if anything. I think it's more of a mirror of the main series than the main series will be a mirror of it. I don't think there's really any significance to that whatsoever. And if there is any mention of the great empire of the Dawn in The Winds of Winter or A Dream of Spring, I will eat whatever hat is closest to me at the point at which I read that book. 3, it's near and dear to my heart, and it's one I also discussed fairly recently, and it's the idea I see pitched time and time again on Twitter and in my comment sections, which is that Martin is taking so long because the show's ending was his ending, and he's rushedly changing it because everyone hated it. That's completely incorrect. If anyone changed anything, it was the show. There were massive plot lines and characters cut well before the series reached its conclusion, and because of that, it was built on faulty ground. The showrunners were just trying to rush ahead to conclude this series that they no longer had interest in after the Red Wedding, just to end up getting a paycheck from Disney that ended up evaporating based on how terrible everything was received here. It just makes me so angry that the two works are so often conflated. Well, yes, there are a lot of similarities, and the first 3 seasons are generally okay to quite good adaptations. Beyond that, I would say things begin to diverge quite quickly, and the core of both works just could not be more different. Specifically in David and Dan rushing so much, and Martin so carefully taking his time to ensure that things are falling into place as necessary, at least to some degree, though there are other elements of procrastination going on. Number 2, there's an excellent Glidus video in this one that can debunk it better than I ever could. It's Tyrion Targaryen. This idea is one that I assume has been promulgated by fans for long, long before I entered the fandom, as he is one of the 3 kind of central characters going on here, along with Jon and Daenerys, the other 2 also being Targaryens, one of those 2 being a secret Targaryen. And yes, there are elements in the timeline where that can be kind of raised as a question, with this weirdness going on between Joanna and Eris around the time of when Tyrion would have been conceived. But I think the point of that ambiguity is it being there to allow the characters themselves to examine it rather than have any significance on who these characters actually are. Tyrion is Tywin's son. That is the key to Tyrion. That is the key to Tywin. Both of their arcs continually fall apart if this is not the case. The point is that Tywin keeps saying Tyrion is not his son. Tyrion is not of him. He could not have produced someone like Tyrion, but he did. Tyrion is Tywin writ small, and we hear it again and again and again. And destroying that relationship by having it be a lie would be one of the greatest sins these books could possibly commit. As Tyrion and Tywin's relationship is so utterly horrifying, but also pretty true to life with some pretty terrible parent-child relationships that do exist in our world. Go watch the Glidus video. It's great. That leaves number 1, you know it, you love it. It's also probably at least a bit based on the show, Mad Queen Daenerys. I really don't like the idea that Daenerys is going to be mad because I think that it does rest so heavily on misconceptions of the character that are perpetuated by the show version of events. Specifically, Daenerys in the books is an entirely different person from the one in the show. Being in her head, exposed to her inner monologue, we get to see who she is and how she develops. All of these terrible things said by Tyrion and Jon in the series finale are not true of Daenerys whatsoever. Yes, she has killed people, but those people were slavers who absolutely deserved to die because they crucified children, and that's not morally arguable by any means. She's not a perfect person, she's absolutely flawed, and a lot of her arc in A Dance with Dragons deals with her naivete and being able to rule, kind of in addition to having this idea of kind of a peaceful realm that she is going to be able to guide towards a better future, though there are bad actors within it. She has to learn throughout that book how to avoid those bad actors and the parts of herself that she really should be using as a ruler. Given that fact, she then flies off into the Dothraki Sea and has this final chapter that is this vision quest in the grasslands where she learns to embrace who she truly is. And many people say, oh, she's embracing fire and blood. She no longer remembers Hazia's name, this child who was burned by Drogon. And yes, while this does indicate some elements of her future rule, I do not believe it indicates madness. It indicates that she no longer is going to compromise with bad actors and individuals who do not deserve her understanding. And I think she's going to end up taking that fire and blood to and from the individuals who have wronged her people, rather than necessarily just kind of raining fire on King's Landing for no reason. I do think there could be some perception by other characters in the series that Daenerys could be mad, but oh my god, I don't think that she actually will be. Bonus theory that I forgot to mention, going along with Mad Queen Daenerys, I really don't like the idea that Barristan is going to turn cloak for Aegon for two reasons. First and foremost, I think Barristan is mega doomed in the Battle of Fire. Additionally, I think that Daenerys is just his granddaughter and he would never do anything to betray her. We're in his head in A Dance with Dragons and we get that image, and additionally, the two of them are just so cute together. Like that little scene where Daenerys says that a ruler must have cheeks of iron because she's been sitting on an uncomfortable seat all day. So then the next chapter, Barristan brings her like 50 cushions to sit on. It's adorable, and he would never betray her, and that makes me angry. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I apologize if I pissed you off, but I'm excited to hear your insights in the comments below. I already said subscribe, so I hope you did that already. I also have Patreon down there, and yeah, many more videos for you on A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, Dunk and Egg in the very near future, and I hope you will join me for all of those. They will hopefully be less angry rambly than this one. Goodbye, everyone.